Hey, do you remember that guy who said he had a higher security clearance than the president?
I have a clearance that even the President of the United States cannot obtain because of my background.
Remember that guy, Allen West? Yeah, he won. He won his House race in Florida last night. So now it is Congressman-elect Allen West, and we are all left to find out what he will allow the president to know that he knows. Also, remember Dan Quayle's son running in Arizona?
Barack Obama is the worst president in history. What's happened to America? I love Arizona. I was raised right. Somebody has to go to Washington and knock the hell out of the place.
Washington, prepare to have the HE double hockey sticks knocked out of you, because he is now Congressman-elect Ben Quayle, believe it or not. Do you remember the Muslims Are Coming for Us lady from North Carolina who Anderson Cooper just destroyed when she appeared on his show?
I guess what I could ask you is, are you anti-religion? Are you anti-Christian in your thinking?
That's like the lowest response I've ever heard from a candidate, I got to tell you.
Really?
Really? America, meet Congresswoman-elect. Muslims are coming for us. That is, of course, assuming that Renee Elmer's narrow victory holds up against a possible recount in North Carolina. Do you remember when Jan Brewer, post-SB 1070, gave the most amazing debate performance of definitely this entire year, but probably many years?
It's great to be here with Larry, Barry, and Terry, and thank you all for watching us tonight. I have done so much, and I just cannot believe that we have changed everything since I become your governor in the last 600 days. Arizona has been brought back from its abyss. We have cut the budget, we have balanced the budget, and we are moving forward. We have done everything that we could possibly do. We have did what was right for Arizona.
Arizona Governor Jan Brewer handily reelected last night to the seat she took over from Janet Napolitano in January of last year, elected after she did that on television. Those are some of the more amazing results of last night's elections. But in fact, some of the most amazing candidates whose campaign stylings we so appreciated over the last year or so did not prevail. Like, for instance, our good friend Art Robinson, whose interview on this show sucked the meaning from all language and broke portions of the space-time continuum. Art Robinson, who believes that low-level radiation is good for you and that nuclear waste should be sprinkled in the ocean. He failed in his bid to unseat Oregon Congressman Peter DeFazio last night by roughly 9 points, despite tons of outside money spent on his behalf by a hedge fund guy in Long Island. Also, Jim Russell, the Republican candidate from New York State, who wrote for a white supremacist fake academic journal, quote, "Parents need to be reminded that they have a natural obligation to instill in their children an acceptance of appropriate ethnic boundaries for socialization and for marriage." The white supremacist guy lost by more than 20 points in his race. Of course, there's also Tom Tancredo, who wanted to reinstitute Jim Crow-era literacy tests for voting, and who also says he wants to bomb Mecca. He lost the race for governor in Colorado by a nice, healthy margin. Also, John Racy, the man who called Dr. Stephen Chu, our nation's energy secretary, Dr. Chow Mein. Mr. Racy is presumably on his way back to Florida, where he lives, despite the fact that he was running for Senate in West Virginia. Christine O'Donnell and Sharon Engel also both lost last night, but oh, the hours of work they saved us by being supernaturally remarkable at all times.
I've already seen some Hillary Clinton ads. I don't know about you, but I have. I have. So, I mean, there's a lot of Democrats who don't want this.
What do you mean when you mean Second Amendment remedies?
So, thank you.
Second Amendment remedies, anything?
We're looking at how can we best benefit from the media.
One of those indispensable principles is the separation of church and state.
Okay, with that, very good dialogue. We appreciate that. Let's move on so we can get to all the panelists and cover a number of areas. Channel Abigail from the News Journal, please, if you could ask the next question, please.
Where in the Constitution is separation of church and state?
The separation of church and state arises out of the Constitution.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, the Founding Fathers didn't believe in the separation of church and state? The Establishment Clause, the First Amendment?
Actually, Thomas Jefferson has been misquoted like I've been misquoted out of context.
Goodbye, Sharon Engel. Goodbye, Christine O'Donnell. We will enjoy your TV shows sometime in the very near future, I'm sure. Also, you know, Rich Ayat, the Nazi reenactor guy, he lost. He lost big to incumbent Ohio Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur by 18 points. That said, we did get kind of a mixed message on the whole Nazi reenactment thing because one of the Nazi reenactor guy's key supporters did prevail. This guy made 2 big separate donations to the Nazi reenactors campaign and didn't ask for the money back after the Nazi dress-up pictures surfaced. Then, the weekend before the election, this guy showed up at a campaign rally in support of the Nazi reenactor guy. That guy, the big-time no-regrets supporter of the Nazi dress-up candidate, will be our new Speaker of the House. So, yeah, kind of a mixed message on the whole wearing a Nazi uniform for fun on the weekends thing. On the Democratic side, there were definitely some who lost their seats who will be missed by progressives for totally opposite reasons. Progressive heroes who will not be coming back in January, including Patrick Murphy, the Iraq War veteran who successfully got the Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal through the House. Russ Feingold, of course, the 3-term senator from Wisconsin, also lost his re-election bid. Tom Perriello, who fought a gutsy, no apologies, actual capital D Democratic campaign in a tough district and earned a lot of progressive respect for it. Also, of course, Alan Grayson, liberal firebrand forever.
Here it is, the Republicans' health care plan for America. Don't get sick. That's right, don't get sick. If you get sick in America, this is what the Republicans want you to do. If you get sick, America, the Republican health care plan is this: die quickly.
While the loss of those pugnacious Democrats is lamented today on the left, the bigger story in Democratic losses is that it is the conservative Democrats, the blue dog Democrats, who were absolutely decimated in last night's elections. Of the Progressive Caucus, which has more than 80 members, so the Liberals, Progressive Caucus, more than 80 members, 4 of them were knocked out either in the primaries or in last night's elections. For the Blue Dog Coalition, for the conservatives, they've got 53 members. 24 of them lost re-election bids this year. Nearly half of the Blue Dog Caucus is now gone, including 2 of their co-chairs. That is the story of this year's elections on the Democratic side and in Democratic politics. Joining us now is Washington, D.C. editor of The Nation magazine and MSNBC contributor Chris Hayes. Chris, it is nice to see you. Thanks for joining us.
It's great to see you, too. Great job last night, Rachel.
Thank you. So it's those darn liberals, right? That's the Democrats' problem this year?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think I've been looking through the exit polling data and trying to work out, you know, with an open mind, looking at the data, you know, what was the problem for these Democrats that lost, and it's actually really hard to come up with a coherent narrative. I mean, the race that I was sort of monitoring last night, I was down in the 5th District of Virginia with Tom Perriello, who you mentioned. You know, he ran a race in a district that McCain won. For 2 years, he was very boldly progressive, unapologetic. He lost by a narrow margin. You know, miles away in Virginia Beach, Glenn Nye in Virginia's 2nd District did every blue dog trick in the book. He distanced himself from the president. He voted against cap and trade. He voted against health care, and he got blown out of the water. So, you know, at the end of the day, it's very unclear whether distancing yourself from the president, sort of issuing these press releases about how you don't like Obamacare, actually ended up redounding to your benefit on Election Day.
And there was for that result, the lack of clarity of that result, when you stack that up against the number of people who said that Democrats would have to inoculate themselves from Republican attacks by voting no on health care, is phenomenal. I mean, as far as I can tell, we've got 34 Democrats who voted against health reform in the House, and half of them have now lost their seats. But we're still hearing all day long that if Democrats had only all done that, if they'd all been against health reform, they would have been fine. I feel like the narrative is just completely unrelated to the facts.
No, it's totally wrong. I mean, look, you can look at, if you look at the Democrats who voted in sort of marginal seats who voted against health care and the ones who voted for health care, the ones who voted health care did a very little bit amount better, but we're talking like really at the margins here. And I think the whole sort of misconception from the beginning, I think from the Blue Dog Caucus, was the notion that they weren't already associated with the National Party and Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi to begin with. There's a failure to understand the degree to which the House of Representatives is viewed as a parliamentary body by voters, that elections can be successfully nationalized by outside interests, and that the details of, oh, I didn't vote for health care, or I didn't vote for cap and trade is just going to come out in the wash of an election, you are bound to them from the beginning. So you might as well just vote your conscience or sort of try to get the best legislation you can get.
If you are a member of Congress and somebody says to you, you better vote no on this Democratic thing because Republicans are going to use it against you, ask yourself, are Republicans going to leave me alone or praise me if I take this advice?
Exactly. Yeah. And go talk. Everyone should go give Glenn Nye a call and ask him about the ads they ran against him in his district because, frankly, they didn't go easy on him. And I even am brought back to a particularly preposterous moment in our politics, which was after Scott Brown won, and the House had already voted once for the health care bill. There were these rumblings in the caucus among the marginal districts that they didn't want to vote again, as if one vote for the health care vote would one vote for the health care bill would be fine, but the second vote would be the thing that killed them. I mean, it's now standing here the day after Election Day that you realize this kind of granular conception of how these votes are registering with the public is just completely unbased in any sort of empirical data.
Briefly, Chris, in terms of the Democrats that are going back now, the Progressive Caucus is essentially intact. The Blue Dog Caucus has been essentially blown away. That said, the Beltway Press is writing about the half-size Blue Dog Caucus now as really wanting to flex their muscles in this next couple of years ahead. What do you think happens in terms of the balance of power among liberal and conservative Democrats?
Oh, there's no question it shifts to the liberals, and the center of gravity of the caucus moves left. And the fact of the matter is, you know, in the majority, you can be a swing vote in this kind of quasi-parliamentary sense in which you're sort of a third party. In the minority, no one cares. I mean, the Republicans don't need blue dog votes. No one needs blue dog votes. And it's truly delusional if the blue dogs think that John Boehner is going to be knocking down their door for anything. He does not care. They are dead to him.
Chris Hayes, Washington editor of The Nation magazine. Blunt and true as always. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Rachel.